Okay, in this lesson, and I'm beginning with 28 Mud, what we're going to do is I'm going to present some painting ideas for use in Mudbox. So I'm going to I'm going to right click, and once all I have to do is right click on it, and I get all of my, I get all my maps loaded, and I'm going to create a new layer. Okay, and I'll call this decoration. And this is not something that you need to do. It's something that I'm going to present. And I've got on my paintbrush, I've got mirror on X. It's not something. It's better to have it and not need it than to need it not, or to want it and not have it. Now, before I do that, I am going to do one thing in Photoshop. So I'm going to switch over to Photoshop. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to create it in pixels, and I'm going to create it 512 by 512 and click OK. Now, if your rulers are set on inches, go ahead and change them to pixels. I'm going to take a guide. I'm going to drop this down to about 128. I want to get it about 128. Well, that's pretty close. And I'm going to, in my marquee tool, I'm going to change my width to 512 and the height of 256. And I'm going to go right here and click. All right, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to fill with black, press Command D to drop my selection, and then I'm going to invert. And then I'm going to go to File, and I'm going to save as. I'm going to do this as a PNG, and where I'm going to put it is I'm going to go ahead and put it into the referenced files, and I will call this, I'll make it a PNG, and I will call this Stripe Stencil. And press it. And then I'm going to go into Mudbox, and I'm going to go to my stencils, and I'm going to add stencil. It's going to want to go really deep into your applications. Instead, I'm just going to go to right here and click Open. All right, so I will see it right here, and when I click on my stencil, there it is. I'm going to use tiles, and that's going to give me a stripe. Now, the reason why that's going to be so important is because I'm going to wind up painting with these stripes as I need them. So I'll turn that off for now. Okay. I have a couple of stencils. Like I've got this round stencil, which works really, really well. And you can always create your own stencils and whatever you want. So I'm going to go to my top view, and I'm going to go to my paintbrush and make sure that I'm going to change my color. I'm going to change my color to kind of I'll go to make it a blue. For this, click Done. And we'll go to my round stencil. I'll uncheck Use Tiles. And it gives you a nice hint. I can scale my stencil by pressing S and using the right mouse button. And I can hit S and middle mouse drag to change the location of my stencil. Of course, I can also, it's important that I'm using the orthographic projection, not my perspective. I can zoom this out, or I can scale my stencil and move it around. All right, and once I've gotten to there, I can paint. Okay. There we go. And I'll see that I've done it on both sides. Go to my right view and zoom in, and by combination of through a combination of scaling and moving around, I can get this looking pretty good. Actually, what I think I'm going to do next is I'm going to go to my stencil and go to my stripe stencil, scale this up. I can also rotate it by holding down S and rotating it like this. Actually, I'll scale this down. Use tiles, and I can scale this down quite a bit. Now basically I've got a set of vertical lines, and I'll go with the 3 vertical lines. Ooh, and I'm getting a mess on that, so let me undo that and move that out of the way. That's a little bit off. Now if I really want to, I can isolate this so that I don't accidentally paint. Okay. Now what I can do is I can invert my values on this stencil and change my color to white and paint in here. Check at the top. And then I'm going to go to that stencil, and under transformation I'm going to reset my transformations by just typing in 0, and then I'm going to go after the propeller. I'll uncheck invert values, and I'll scale, maybe I'll scale this up a little bit, make a little bit thicker lines. Make sure I'm on. You want to make sure you're on top and in the orthographic perspective. I'll paint white here and here, and that's given me both sides. I haven't zoomed in at all. And then I'll go to blue, and I'll invert my values, and I'll just put a blue bit right there. Now I'll turn my stencil off. I can do it here, or I can go over and do it there. And now I see I've got a fairly good paint job, and I can continue with this if I so choose. Whoa, go to home and zoom in. Now I've got a little bit, it looks a little bit ragged here. I think that's because my maps might be a little bit stretched in this particular area. I can clean that up in Photoshop if I want, or I can go in and see if I can't do it here. So I'm in blue. Yeah, no, it's not going to work. That's all right. I don't know that I'm gonna leave these. I don't know I'm going to include these. But point is that what we've done in this is we've used stencils to paint in a design on our model, which we may use if we want. What we can do is we can export this channel merged. I can export that as a TIFF, and I'll call it with color. Click create, and then now I'll have that as my, now I can use that as my color channel if I so choose. I think I'm going to stick with my just my wood texture. But my point is, in this lesson, what we've done is we have used stencils to create a texture map to add to our diffuse texture map, and you can use that or not, depending upon how you want to depict your model. So in the next lesson, what we'll do is we'll bring these textures back into Maya, and we will set things up to render.